Were Richard Allen's jailhouse confessions real or part of a psychological breakdown? Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Coneybear. It is now day 11 in the Delphi murder trial. The prosecution calling witnesses to lay out the multiple confessions from Richard Allen and to analyze the mental health of the suspect charged in the brutal killings of Abby Williams and Libby German nearly 8 years ago. ABC 57's Annie Kate is live in studio with today's key testimony for us. Annie?
Yeah, Brian, we've heard from her in pre-trial hearings, and today she was the prosecution's first witness, Richard Allen's prison psychologist, Dr. Monica Walla. She started seeing him in November 2022 at the Westville Correctional facility, a state prison where Allen was kept for safekeeping ahead of trial. He was on suicide watch when he first arrived for about a month. Then he went back on suicide watch in April 2023 because, quote, things took a turn, Walla testified. Despite her telling Allen not to talk about his case, he started confessing to the murders, according to her therapy notes. He claimed he killed the girls on his own and his intentions were sexual, and he made sure they were dead so they didn't suffer. He wanted to apologize for the crime too, and he appeared very religious at the time. His odd behavior started about the same time he got notice of discovery evidence, she said on the stand. Jurors watching Allen during this testimony. She determined he had some situational psychosis in May 2023, even smearing feces on a prison wall. Richard Allen's version of events, according to Dr. Walla's therapy notes, goes like this. He visited his mom the morning of February 13th, 2017, skipped lunch in favor of a six-pack, bundled up and headed to the trail, followed the girls, mentioned using his gun, ordered the girls down the hill and across the creek. His intention was to sexually assault the girls, but saw a van and cut their necks instead, covering their bodies in branches, avoiding trails as he left the scene to go on and live his normal life. And he was successful for nearly 6 years before his arrest. Coming up on ABC 57 News at 5:30, I'll go into the cross-examination of Dr. Walla and her admitted interest in the Delphi murders case, something the defense will argue was a conflict of interest. For now, live in studio, Annie Kate, Brian, back to you.
We begin here on ABC 57 News at 5:30 with the cross-examination of a key witness at the Delphi murder trial. Hello again, everyone. I'm Brian Coneybear. The suspect, Richard Allen, made multiple confessions while behind bars, including to a prison psychologist. Now, at 5 p.m., we heard her direct testimony, but then the defense got its chance to poke holes in it. ABC 57's Annie Kate is covering the trial every step of the way. She's live in studio right now. Annie?
Yeah, Brian, Richard Allen's confessions are a huge problem for the defense. Allen's story he told behind bars about the day of the murders matches up with the evidence we've seen so far. But the defense used cross-examination to try and show Allen's psychologist had a conflict of interest, one that might have gotten her fired from her job. After Walla's July 31st pre-trial testimony in this case, the state had to do an investigation, she said, and she no longer works at the Department of Corrections. Walla had an interest in the Delphi murders case, following updates on social media, Facebook, and podcasts. Defense attorney Brad Rosie saying she did not file an official report to her supervisor, even if she informally told them she knew about the case. At one point, she used the DOC's internal database to look up information about the case, possibly other inmates who were previous persons of interest. She told Richard Allen he had supporters online. Rosie also mentioning Allen's severe mental health deterioration, which he says was inadequately addressed in favor of Allen being put on suicide watch. And Allen's reports of being taunted by other inmates who called him a baby killer and threatened him. And of course, Rosie brought up early prison reports where Allen maintained his innocence. In redirect, the prosecution asked Monica Walla if she ever told her supervisors about her interest in the case and whether they followed true crime cases. And Walla said yes. So all this to say, the defense clearly was successful in discrediting Monica Walla, but that doesn't necessarily change anything about Allen's prison confessions. He still gave Dr. Walla a full narrative of the events, plus he confessed to prison guards, wardens, inmates, and his family. The defense will try to show those confessions were a result of his poor mental health, but will that be enough to convince a jury? For now, in studio, Annie Kate, back to you.
ABC 57's Annie Kate is following the day's developments, including 2 new witnesses late in the day. Annie?
Yeah, Brian, investigator Steve Mullen was once again called to the stand to show the surveillance footage he believes caught Richard Allen's car on camera, supporting their timeline of events. He testified the only 2016 black Ford Focus in Carroll County at the time belonged to Allen. Next up on the stand, Delphi resident Brad Weber, who lives right by the Monon High Bridge Trail. His long driveway goes under the bridge. Now, we know investigators searched his property in 2017, but the defense has previously appeared to cast suspicion on Weber. Today, the prosecution showed his work time card from February 13th, 2017. He clocked out just after 2 p.m. that day. His cross-examination from Andrew Baldwin was heated almost immediately, with Baldwin harping on whether Weber ran any errands after his shift. Weber said no, but apparently said otherwise in the past, and he yelled at Baldwin the errand was earlier in the day. After this, Baldwin handed Weber a subpoena while he was still on the stand. So we'll likely hear from him again when it's the defense's turn. Court ended today at 4 p.m., and tomorrow the jury can expect to hear about 2 hours of audio. Live in studio, Annie Kate, ABC 57 News.